all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now! It's 9 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
you're out of Islam. You're out. You're supposed to hate. You're supposed to hate, not the non-believer, to hate his belief.
why are so many Islamist preachers obsessed with coming to the UK? And
Salam alaikum. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the leaders and elders.
well, now it turns out that a Birmingham mosque helped to appoint the under-fire West Midlands police chief. Why hasn't the Home Secretary sacked him yet? Plus,
would this government in the UK ever genuinely consider banning X?
Yes, of course.
well, big developments in the last few minutes, actually, but Ofcom launches a formal investigation and might ban X from the UK. Also,
so it is time for another glorious revolution to get us back to a fully sovereign parliament, and where the government really is the government. For that, my friends, Britain needs reform.
has Reform made a mistake by welcoming in Nadhim Zahawi? And why is Sir Keir Starmer refusing to prescribe Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps as terrorists? Also,
it's possible that some people crossed over, but I didn't, and I think probably the reason I was separate from the third of those is because I'm gay.
Peter Mandelson says that he didn't notice Jeffrey Epstein doing anything wrong because he's gay. And
Barbie, let's go party.
find out why the latest Barbie doll is so controversial. On my panel tonight, we've got Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist Benjamin Butterworth, and Reform member, ex-Tory party chair, both times a colleague of Nadhim Zahawi, actually, Sir Jake Berry. And what has happened here?
The man in the women's clothes, he's a drag queen. You're mad!
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Huge update on the Musk versus Starmer war next.
Good evening, it's 2 minutes past 9. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer has warned Elon Musk's X tonight that if they cannot control AI tool Grock, the UK government will. The Prime Minister went on to warn that the platform may lose its right to self-regulate. Media watchdog Ofcom today launched an investigation into claims that Grock is being used to generate sexualised images of women and children. Speaking in the House of Commons earlier, Technology Secretary Liz Kendall said no woman or child should live in fear of having their images manipulated by technology. She announced that creating non-consensual intimate images will be made a criminal offence this week. Ofcom says it gave the company a deadline to explain how it's protecting UK users and has now fast-tracked a probe into whether it's breaking the Online Safety Act. Former Conservative Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi has defected to Reform UK, declaring Britain is drinking at the last chance saloon. Standing alongside Nigel Farage in London, Mr Zahawi said the country really does need Farage as Prime Minister to pull it back from what he called a dark and dangerous chapter. Mr Farage hailed the move as proof that Reform UK is not a one-man band. The Conservative Party also has hit back, calling Mr Zahawi a has-been, while Labour Party Chair Anna Turley described him as a discredited politician. Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper has spoken to authorities in Iran, saying that the Iranian government must immediately end this violence. It comes as the country is entering a third week of unrest, with a rising death toll and the regime tightening its grip on nationwide protests. Human rights groups say now that nearly 650 people have been killed and more than 10,000 arrested as protests harden into open defiance of the supreme leader. The Foreign Secretary went on to say that the killing and brutal repression of peaceful protesters in Iran is horrific. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has said tonight that Iran is sending different messages to the US than those in public, adding that President Trump is not afraid to use military force on the country, but wants diplomacy. And tens of thousands of people across Sussex and Kent have started the week without running water after Kent County Council declared a major incident. South East Water blames Storm Goretti, freezing weather and a power failure at a pumping station, with 14 postcodes still dry around East Grinstead, Frant and Tunbridge Wells. Schools, libraries and even parts of the local hospital have been forced to shut, with bottled water being handed out to keep essential services running. Local MP Mike Martin says the situation is bizarre, warning the water company must now get a grip. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Patrick.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good evening. Blaming Elon Musk's X for the distribution of AI-generated child porn or women in bikinis is a bit like blaming the car for a jihadi terror attack at a Christmas market. Well, the breaking news in the last few moments is that Sir Keir Starmer has said that his government, his Labour government, will control Grock, even if Elon Musk will not. But the other bit of breaking news today is that Ofcom has now launched a formal investigation into Elon Musk's social media platform, X. This comes after significant pressure from this Labour government.
Disgraceful, it's disgusting, and it's not to be tolerated. X has got to get a grip of this, and Ofcom have full support to take action in relation to this. This is wrong, it's unlawful, we're not going to tolerate it. I've asked for all options to be on the table. It's disgusting.
Why is he so close to the camera? I thought he was about to headbutt me for a second there. People like Labour Minister Chris Bryant came out and said this: nobody is talking about banning X/Twitter in the UK. This is conspiracy theory number 3,627. Well, he's had to delete that tweet because this morning it turns out the government really is considering it. Here's Minister Peter Kyle.
Would this government in the UK ever genuinely consider banning X?
Yes, of course. We gave these powers to Ofcom, and not giving them the powers to Ofcom with the proviso that they will never be used. We gave very strident powers to Ofcom, which is our independent regulator, with very specific legal obligations to and the powers to use them in certain circumstances.
Right, so it's on then, isn't it? And today, Liz Kendall, the Technology Secretary, said this.
Sharing intimate images without someone's consent or threatening to share them, including images of people in their underwear, is a criminal offence for individuals and for platforms. The Data Act, passed last year, made it a criminal offence to create or request the creation of non-consensual intimate images. And today, I can announce to the House that this offence will be brought into force this week.
Right, so they say that they are banning it because they care about Grock, the AI tool, and how it can be asked to put pictures of women and underage children in bikinis. Now, that is obviously disgusting and wrong. That feature clearly needs to be stopped. But here's why I don't believe the Labour government. Firstly, a ban would bring the UK into line with countries like Iran, Russia, China, Malaysia, Pakistan, Indonesia. You know, do we really want to be in the same bracket as those countries? Why have those countries banned it, do you think? Could it be that the Labour government wants to ban them for very similar reasons as those authoritarian nations? Secondly, this government can't suddenly claim to care about the rights of women and girls now. Pakistani rape gangs have been operating in Labour-run areas for decades. Starmer said that people only wanted an inquiry to jump on a far-right bandwagon. And the new deputy leader, Lucy Powell, had to apologise after she dismissed those victims and survivors by calling the whole thing a dog whistle.
I don't know whether you saw the documentary on Channel 4 about rape gangs over
No,
this.
we want to blow that little trumpet now, do we? Yeah, okay.
There was a real issue
Let's get that dog whistle out, shall we? Yeah.
Oh, they care about women and girls, though. They really do care. Rape gang survivors have even accused Jess Phillips of calling them liars over their concerns about the National Inquiry. I could go on. They don't seem to care about women and girls when it comes to the epidemic of rapes and sexual assaults committed by illegal immigrants. The Ethiopian illegal migrant, that one, Kabatu, assaulted a schoolgirl. These two Afghan migrants raped a schoolgirl in a park. This Sudanese man, he was an illegal again. He stabbed a migrant hotel worker to death. Again, I could go on and on and on. Why is it that the government cares more about an app that can put Sir Keir Starmer in a bikini than they do about schoolgirls being raped and abused by Pakistani men and illegal immigrants? This hypocrisy has been noticed at the very highest level of the US government. The State Department is putting out posts like this now in America. British government threatening to ban X. We are as determined to ensure women and girls are as safe online as we are to ensure they are safe in the real world. Well, then they post this. They say, well, an article accusing a Labour council leader of calling rape gang victims white trash. So they're noticing the hypocrisy. Elon Musk has now waged war with Starmer. I mean, just today he posted real fascism is arresting thousands of people for social media posts. Look, it is already illegal for people to make sexualised, AI-generated images of other people, especially children, obviously, and those people are sick, and they need to be arrested, and they need to be put away for a very, very long time. There's no doubt about that. But what I think is going on here is that the Labour government is actually using the online sexual abuse of women and girls to get what it really wants, which is censorship and the closure of a huge public platform where people criticise the Labour Party all day long. And you know what? I think that's actually pretty sick as well. I've got the thoughts of my panel. Daily Express columnist Carol Malone. We've got broadcaster and journalist Benjamin Butterworth, former chairman of the Tory party, Sir Jake Berry. Carol, do you think that the Labour government is, in a sense, using the sexual abuse through images of women and children online to ban X, to clamp down on it because it doesn't like the platform?
I don't think it's in a sense. I think it absolutely is that. Big tech should not be above the law, especially where abuse and harassment is concerned. But let's not pretend that's what really this is all about. This is about the fact that the Liberal left and Starmer and this government hate Twitter, always have, and they've hated it since Musk took over, mainly because he uses it as his own personal megaphone to rage against them all on a regular basis, almost every day. He's used it to rage against them about the grooming gangs, about illegal immigration, about all sorts of about transgender issues. It's interesting, isn't it, that before Musk took over Twitter, it was a bannable offence to refer to a trans woman as a man. Since he took over, the war on women's rights, re-trans issues, has been won on Twitter because of brave women like J.K. Rowling and Sharon Davis. So the left hate Twitter because, remember, we're ruled by a government that hates freedom of speech. It doesn't want to hear the opinions or the passions of us, the electorate. They couldn't care less, and they certainly don't want to be admonished by us. Twitter can be a cesspit, Patrick, but the bottom line is, and it can be a cesspit for some of the worst, most vile people on the planet. However, it is also a platform for people who don't have a voice to raise their concerns about this government.
Are there also concerns about the independence of Ofcom here? Because I could be wrong about this, but I don't think there was any question of Ofcom doing an investigation into this until they came under quite significant political pressure from the Labour Party.
Well, clearly, they absolutely have come under political pressure. Look, I know Ofcom reacts to political pressure because I was subject to an Ofcom complaint when I was a Conservative Member of Parliament. I know that was triggered by a Labour Party MP. By the way, I might say Twitter is actually how I found out about that complaint. They never bothered to notify me themselves. Look, this government is the closest thing to a dictatorship that we have ever known in Britain. They are banning platforms like Twitter. Potentially they're talking about it. Appreciate they've not done it yet. That is a huge outlet for freedom of speech. Let's not forget those pictures of people in Iran. You wouldn't have most of those pictures. You wouldn't know what was going on in Iran unless we had free, you know...
You couldn't trust the BBC to report.
You couldn't trust the BBC to, unless you had citizen journalism through Twitter. They're banning elections. They're going to ban up to 28 elections this year. That will mean, in some areas, like Blackburn with Darwin, for example, where I used to represent, there will be councillors elected for 7 years on a 4-year term. They're persecuting Freemasons, trying to stop them, making them declare membership of Freemasons if they want to go into public office. This is a government that is actually doing the classic thing that dictatorships have done around the world and claiming it is in the name of democracy. This is completely wrong, and the British people need to wake up, recognise this for what it is. It is brutal censorship of the British public.
But I mean, they can't realistically claim that this is all about protecting women and girls when they have not given a toss about women and girls when it comes to the epidemic of rapes by asylum seekers and illegal immigrants, or indeed the Pakistani rape gang scandal.
I found everything that's been said so far pretty pathetic as a deflection. I mean, you've got a situation here where you have the richest man in the world has a system that allows people to create sexual pictures or videos of strangers and of children. Right, but you're not saying that, are you? Because you're deflecting.
I'm sorry,
you're deflecting from it.
If you were listening before, I think I said it twice in that monologue. And yet, should not be allowed. I also said those people who do should be arrested and put in prison for a very long time.
First of all, your comparison to the car is ridiculous. You know, if a drug dealer uses Excel to record the amount of money he takes from drug dealing, Excel isn't creating the drug dealing. Whereas in this situation, the technology created and permitted by Elon Musk's Twitter is allowing them to make these images. It would not be possible
to a Christmas market if a car didn't exist.
It would not be. But no, because the fact is that Elon Musk could have stopped this. There are other platforms. The Google AI system already did not allow you to create images like this. And Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, has not immediately said, actually, this is sick and it should be stopped straight away. He didn't do that. He's put the brakes on, to use a car analogy. He's failed to fix it. And then he started saying that we should put sanctions on the UK if you don't. Now, how pathetic for British people to not stand up to a foreign person just because he's rich and right-wing, to not say that this should be banned if you don't stop sexualising British children.
Willing to shut down online discussion is a threat.
It's not about the discussion. It's about pedos having an ability to sexualise kids.
The only other democratic country to have shut.
You either think it's right or wrong, Carol.
You just had a long talk. The only other democratic country to shut down Twitter was Brazil. That's the only other country. The other ones Patrick mentioned in his monologue, which I was listening to, Russia, China, North Korea.
You think they should? You think if they continue as they are to allow you to make these sick images,
there is a law that
they should not be faced the consequence?
There is a law that already exists that you can persecute people who actually but no one's being.
Why should he continue to make profit?
If I may, Benjamin. So first of all, Twitter isn't producing these images. It's Grock. That's the first thing. Let's be absolutely clear about this. Right. So the government could leave Twitter, which is a public platform for debate, and cancel Grock. They're not talking about that. They're talking about cancelling the public platform for debate. That shows what's truly motivating them. They want to shut debate down. And the second thing is, I tell you what is really, really distasteful about this. As Patrick pointed out in his introduction, this is already a crime. In fact, not only is it a crime producing the images, even requesting the images. So if I put in Grock, please produce an inappropriate image of a child, which is disgusting and something no one should ever do, the request itself would be a crime. That is not being enforced. Let me finish. That is not being enforced by the government. All they create new crimes. The crimes that we already have, which are being committed, which are appalling, the police are doing nothing about it. And if the government was serious about clamping down on the sort of vile paedophiles that are using this platform, they wouldn't be talking about making it a crime. They would make Twitter and other social media outlets
but can I just point out
platforms so they could be held to account, and they're not talking about
the obvious flaw in that is that, first of all, you would have to track down the user in order to pursue the existing crime. And if someone in Malaysia or Florida creates a picture of your kid in this country that is sexually explicit, then you can't prosecute under that law. You would have to take on the platform. And if the platform is allowing someone in the world to take sexual pictures of your children in this country, you have to take the platform on.
You would ban X?
Well, I would like them to stop allowing the technology.
If they don't...
Well, I would like to ban the technology, not the platform.
Okay,
but if they choose to not fix the problem, then how pathetic to let them keep doing it and profiting from doing it.
In the meantime, why don't you just boycott X, then?
Well, I have. I've been hacked, so I can't use it. But just to be clear, they're making money off these images.
So are you.
Right?
You're making... Not with those images, sorry, I'll clarify that. But there's an X about being on X.
I'm not on X, right? But
only because you've been hacked. Previously you are, and you're a subscriber.
Just to be clear, they make money off tweets when you see the adverts. So all of these pictures, they are making money off. I think that is sick, and I think we should say that if you keep doing it, then you don't have a right to exist.
Do you seriously think that's what this argument is all about, the threats to close Twitter? I don't. I believe it's because Twitter...
So you think they should be allowed to carry on?
Twitter has been a thorn... When did I say that?
But that's what you're saying by consequence.
To Starmer and his government since the day he bought...
If the government really cared about this, if they really, really believe that this was so wrong, why is the government, the UK government, still advertising on X? Why are government ministers still using X? Why are Labour backbenchers still using X? This is about a war between the Prime Minister and Elon Musk. If they're so appalled about it, stop paying my taxpayers' money to advertise on the platform. They haven't done that yet because they only care about closing down free speech.
I think fundamentally, when you look around at how long in Labour areas the Pakistani rape gang scandal was allowed to carry on, you look at things like what we're seeing now with this tidal wave of sexual assaults and crimes and murders in some cases, predominantly against women and underage girls committed by people who just arrived for the channel. Those, as bad as obviously all the images that are being produced on Grock are, and they should be banned and all of that stuff, don't get me wrong, but you've got a lot of people kind of in real life physically being attacked here, and they don't seem to care as much about that at all as they do about any of this.
Do you remember Starmer's response to Musk when Musk criticised him over the grooming gangs? He said anyone who supported justice for these girls had jumped on the far right.
He did not say that at all.
He said people...
That is a completely fake quote. That is completely made up. He didn't say anybody who supports justice for girls.
No, he did not say supports justice for girls. He said people who didn't support the inquiry into the grooming gangs. That's what he said. And Starmer was not supporting that inquiry at the time.
OK, all right, well, look, let's see what happens, because, like I said, that latest line about an hour or so ago, Keir Starmer said that if Elon Musk won't control Grock, then he will. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there.
Keir Starmer can't control Elon Musk. That's the reason he really wants to ban it.
Well, you want Elon Musk to control the British Prime Minister. That's the problem here. And that's the most pathetic part about it. Outsourcing to a foreign billionaire.
Oh, OK, all right, there we go. Right, loads more on, actually, some really, really meaty topics to get stuck into. But before that, I want to tell you about the £85,000 that could be yours, tax-free. Is Hayley Sparks still in Lapland?
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. What would you spend all of that cash on? 2026 could be the year you spend more time spending with an incredible £85,000 in your bank. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
OK, loads more coming your way. Bit of this.
I think the issue is that because I was a gay man, in his circle. I was kept separate from what he was doing in the sexual side.
OK. It took the BBC a whole 8 minutes to ask Lord Mandelson about his relationship with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Was that dismal interview a slap in the face to Epstein's victims? But before that... As we speak, protesters are out on the streets of Iran for another night. Way more than 500 people are dead, thousands more injured, but our government is refusing to ban the Ayatollah's terror army. The US, Canada, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Australia, they all have. Why won't Sir Keir Starmer? That's next.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power?
Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber.
Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics.
We'll see where this ruling takes us.
These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. So coming up, were the BBC right to platform Lord Mandelson, given his links to the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein? But before that, should the Prime Minister just prescribe the Ayatollahs, IRGC? It's time for the head-to-head. Well, yeah, as we speak, Iran is currently experiencing another night of protest. More than 500 people, thousands more have been injured, 500 people or so have died. And this is as the Ayatollah's regime continues its violent response to those demonstrations. Well, Grock, despite pressure from the US and mounting evidence about the group's role in the killing of protesters, as well, frankly, as some of the horrific things they tried to do here on British soil, the government has refused to ban Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
This government has already sanctioned Iran and the IRGC. We have used the powers that we have. Jonathan Hall, who is the independent evaluator of terror legislation, has said that the current legislation doesn't allow us really to prescribe in the same way we would for domestic terror.
So tonight I'm asking, should the government just crack on and ban the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps? Going head-to-head on this now are the former chair of the Defence Select Committee, Tobias Elwood, and the director of the IRGC research at United Against Nuclear Iran, Kasra Arabi. Right, thank you very much. Kasra, I'll start with you. Should Starmer ban the IRGC?
Absolutely. Look, the IRGC is an armed Islamist extremist organisation. It operates no differently to other prescribed terrorist organisations that the UK has put on its list, from ISIS to Al-Qaeda. The IRGC has a formal programme of radicalisation for all of its members, which calls on its members, which teaches its members to wage armed jihad against Jews, Christians and Zoroastrians on the basis that they do not have acceptable faith and must convert to Islam or be killed. For Iranians, for the heroic Iranian people who are taking to the streets, the IRGC is teaching its members that these are enemies of God, and they must not only be killed, but they must be tortured prior to their death. We see the IRGC's modus operandi: terrorism, hostage-taking, hijackings. More than 20 terror plots have been foiled on British soil since 2022. My best friend, a British Iranian journalist, was stabbed 4 times in Wimbledon in an IRGC proxy attack. So absolutely, the IRGC fits the criteria for prescription. And by the way, prescription would have practical consequences for its ability to operate on British soil, because the IRGC is using the same methods as Al-Qaeda, spreading homegrown Islamist radicalisation, homegrown terrorism on British soil. But unlike ISIS and Al-Qaeda, which are prescribed terrorist organisations, the current sanctions regime, Britain's current sanctions regime on the IRGC, does not prohibit its ability to disseminate jihadi propaganda.
All right,
on British soil.
we'll come back to you, Kasra. Thank you for that. So, Tobias, I'll bring you in now, former chair of the Defence Select Committee. Are you on the side of Labour over this, then, Tobias, that you don't think we should ban them?
Well, I don't. Well, interesting place to start. Am I on the side of Labour? I'll say my own position, and then you can make comparisons as you like. I mean, firstly, it's right that you pay tribute to the absolute courage of those that are on the streets in Iran this evening and have been for the last 3 or 4 weeks, standing up to this brutal regime. And this is the biggest opportunity in the 47 years history of this theocracy for this regime to come down. The question is what follows next. And I hear absolutely the localized, the domestic threats that the IRGC has placed on the UK. But the reason why we're discussing this now is because of what's going on in Iran. My concern is, and I was Middle East minister and was frustrated that we didn't do more over decades to stand up to the proxy influences, to stand up to Iran. You know, Donald Trump did something quite incredible in 2020. He took out General Soleimani, in charge of the Quds force under the IRGC, but then didn't stop there. And the concern I have is that we do this. We see something abroad, MPs jump on this bandwagon and say, let's list them, let's register them as a terrorist organization, and then that will sort of, that's our fill, if you like, of what we've done. It makes us feel better. A question I pose is this part of a wider strategy? And just to place into context what the IRGC is, this isn't just an extremist operation. This is very much part of the Iranian state. And if we don't tread carefully, especially with external intervention, it could be that a theocratic regime is replaced by the IRGC because of what we do from outside. So this is a very delicate time in the history of Iran. And I just ask, greater thought is put in. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying, where does this fit in? Where does this fit in to an absolute generational opportunity to see change in Iran?
OK, all right, now, look, both of you, we're sorry about this. We've got a little bit of breaking news, so I'm going to have to move it on. We did do quite long answers either way there, so I do appreciate it, but this is an issue that's not going away, is it? So I'm sure we'll talk about it again very soon. Thank you. Former Chair of the Defence Select Committee, Tobias Elwood, and the Director of the IRGC Research at United Against Nuclear Iran, Kazra Arabi. All the very best. Thank you. Right, OK, look, coming up...
Barbie, let's go party.
Well, we've got diabetic Barbie, Down syndrome Barbie, blind Barbie, and now we've got a very new, diverse Barbie. I'm going to reveal all very shortly, but before that...
It's possible that some people crossed over, but I didn't, and I think probably the reason I was separate from the third of those is because I'm gay.
It took the BBC a whole 8 minutes to ask Lord Mandelson about his relationship with convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. What do you make of what he had to say there? Just out of interest. Anyway, was that dismal interview a slap in the face to Epstein's victims? We'll talk about that next.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. On Tuesday, we'll see some unsettled weather across the western Med with some snow across the hills further east. So confirmation then of some outbreaks of rain on Tuesday across the Canaries, Madeira, parts of western Spain and Portugal. Mostly fine, as I say, across the central part of the Med there, certainly for Italy, 1 or 2 showers and some bright spells too, but a risk of snow certainly across the hills of Turkey. As for the coming few days, well, things generally quieten down, but we'll see further rain at times across western parts.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a mixed picture across the UK as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. Some places will see some mist and fog patches, other places having some outbreaks of rain. Although the area of low pressure, which has brought strong winds across northern parts through today, is now clearing, and so those winds are dropping out, we do have a front pushing in across parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, and later into parts of northern England and Wales, where we are going to see some wet weather at times. Staying mostly dry there across central southern England and Wales. Cloud building through the night, some low clouds, some mist quite possible, and actually staying quite mild here. Temperatures not dropping a huge amount. Markedly colder though across northern parts of Scotland where we have clear skies. As a result, a relatively harsh frost in some places, and also some icy stretches to watch out for. Could cause some problems on the roads first thing tomorrow morning. Otherwise, as we go through tomorrow morning, well, it's a bright, cold, icy start across northern Scotland, across western southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England and Wales. A wet start with that front pushing its way in, and then another front's coming up from the south, so it could be quite a bit of rain across southern counties as you're heading out the door tomorrow morning, and that rain then pushes its way northeastwards across much of central and eastern parts of southern England as well. Some of that rain could be quite heavy as we go through the day. It could cause some localised flooding in a few spots. That front towards the northwest also makes its way south and eastwards across other parts of England and Wales, with something a bit cooler coming in from the northwest. Not as cold as last week, but nonetheless a chillier feel compared to today. Then after a cold and quite widely frosty start to the day tomorrow, it is actually looking largely fine. Lots of bright sunny weather to be had through the bulk of the day, but there's another system coming in from the west, and that's going to bring some cloud and rain as we go later on. Now on Thursday there's a potential for a deep area of low pressure to push in, so that could bring some very strong winds and heavy rain.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Welcome back. And senior Labour figures have branded the BBC's interview with the former US Ambassador Lord Mandelson a slap in the face for the victims of convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. The corporation billed the interview, which aired on Sunday morning, as a chance for Mandelson to, quote, break his silence after his dramatic sacking. But let's not forget why he was removed in the first place. In leaked emails, he called Epstein his best pal, even continuing their friendship after the sex offender had been convicted for soliciting prostitution. It took BBC presenter Laura Kuenssberg a whole 8 minutes to even bring up their relationship, to which Mandelson explained why he was not complicit in any of Epstein's crimes.
Possibly some people will think because that I'm a gay man, I was sort of insensitized or I wasn't attuned to what was going on. I don't really accept that. I think the issue is that because I was a gay man in his circle, I was kept separate from what he was doing in the sexual side of his life. It's possible that some people crossed over, but I didn't, and I think probably the reason I was separate from the third of those is because I'm gay.
OK. Well, I mean, remarkable, that, isn't it? Joining me now is former BBC producer John Mayer. John, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I really do appreciate it. Do you think the BBC was right to platform Peter Mandelson and then not give him a particularly hard time about what many people regard as, well, frankly, quite unbelievable claims?
Patrick, I mean, look, this is the former Deputy Prime Minister, former European Commissioner, member of the House of Lords, the Ambassador. So they were, you know, he's a man with position, and this was a scoop for them to have it. But, you know, his trade is spin doctoring. That's what Peter Mandelson's always done. He's spin doctored, you know. He's made a living out of it. And what he did on Sunday was spin doctored his own reputation, you know. But he saw no evil, spoke no evil, heard no evil. He was a wise monkey. So she should have pushed him far more. A very poor interviewing skill, but you know, you see quite a lot of that these days. I saw the Trump interview on GBNews the other day, which I thought had pretty poor interviewing skill. Showed. I mean, she should have absolutely pushed him, but the BBC is right to interview him. So, but he was. What did he think was happening around him? Did he think all these little girls were maids or what? You know, she should have again pushed him. There
is another aspect to this, John, as well, which is and by the way, I've had some friends of mine who happen to be gay who have reached out to me about this to say how wildly offensive that is. I mean, the idea that if you are a gay man, not only might you be kept separate, but also that he wasn't attuned to the predatory behaviours that Epstein exhibited towards young women. I mean, sorry, because he's gay, is he unable to tell what an underage girl looks like? It's remarkable.
Absolutely not. See no evil, hear no evil. I mean, look at the picture you showed. There he is in the dressing gown with Epstein. You know, of course he knew what was going on. Peter Mandelson is very wise to everything happening around him. I don't believe that he actually didn't see things going on. And actually, Epstein was convicted, remember, and he was still a friend of his. So he should have been pushed far, far more on this. And, you know, so stop being economic with the truth, Peter.
Yeah, OK. I mean, the other aspect of this, of course, is, like, would we have platformed the mate of a grooming gang leader? No, we wouldn't have. We wouldn't have platformed the best mate of a bloke who had been sentenced to, you know, horrific crimes against schoolgirls in Rotherham, for example. We wouldn't have done that. We wouldn't have billed an interview as this is his chance to talk about stuff. So why on earth has the BBC decided to do that with Peter Mandelson?
I'll go back to the beginning. He was the Deputy Prime Minister, he was the Ambassador, he's a member of the House of Lords, he was a European Commissioner, he's a man with much stature in public life.
He's the best friend of Jeffrey Epstein, isn't he? And that thing's
well, yes, he's bestie with Jeffrey Epstein, and that's to his disgrace. But you know, this is actually the third time that poor Peter Mandelson's been caught out. You know, and he always tries to spin his way out of it. And 2 times he's not succeeded, but this time he hasn't either.
Okay.
I mean, stop bashing the BBC for it. Just bash the interviewer. You know, she didn't do as well as she should have done.
Yeah, I get what you're saying,
but
she's, you know, I don't know. I mean, it's just the thing is when I look at it, you know, one of the easy ways of criticising the BBC, some people might think unfairly, some people will think entirely fair enough, is that in the past they've not been very good at, you know, spotting kind of, or they've been a bit soft on people who are basically sex criminals. So you obviously had Hugh Edwards.
Yeah.
It's Jimmy Savile. I'm not, by the way, putting Peter Mandelson in the bracket of any of these people before his lawyers get on to us. But you've had him on there, and he's obviously self-proclaimed best mates with Jeffrey Epstein, has continued contact with him afterwards. I don't know, I would have thought this would have been a great opportunity for the BBC to try to silence a few people like me by absolutely hammering him. And they've let him... Why spend the first 8 minutes talking about things like Greenland? You know, what's all that? But no one's watching the interviews to know his views on Greenland.
Look, I mean, I've gone through his reputation with you already. I mean, look at the Trump interview you did a few weeks ago. 45 minutes of total fawning. You know, that journalist might have been sacked or kicked around the room for that, because she kept agreeing with bloody Trump on things. You know, she wasn't questioning him. And obviously here, Laura Kuenssberg wasn't nice. People are in awe of people who were with power or had power, and maybe Laura was too much in awe of Peter Mandelson. I mean, I made a film, by the way, for Peter Mandelson, and he was an interesting character.
OK, all right. John, Doug, thank you very much for your time, as always. John Mayer there, who is a former BBC producer, joining us there. Thank you so much. Well, BBC spokesperson told GB News this was Lord Mandelson's first interview since losing the role of US ambassador last year. As well as hearing about his insights on US foreign policy, he's repeatedly challenged about his links to Jeffrey Epstein. On his relationship with Epstein and leaked emails, Lord Mandelson previously told the BBC, "I relied on assurances of his innocence that turned out later to be horrendously false. His lawyers claimed that it was a shakedown of him, a criminal conspiracy. I foolishly relied on their word, which I regret to this day." Right. OK, coming up at 10 p.m.
So it is time for another glorious revolution to get us back to a fully sovereign parliament, and where the government really is the government. For that, my friends, Britain needs reform.
What do you make of this? Do you think Reform scored a bit of an own goal here with the appointment of former Chancellor Nadeem Zahawi? But before that...
Barbie, let's go party.
Well, we've got diabetic Barbie, Down syndrome Barbie, blind Barbie, and now we've got another kind of Barbie that is proving to be very, very controversial. I'll reveal all next.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christys here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, DC.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. Something a little bit different for you now. So manufacturers of the Barbie doll have divided public opinion after announcing the latest in their, quote, diverse and inclusive range of Barbie dolls. Now, this one is an autistic doll that comes with sensory accessories. So Mattel, which I'm assuming is the company that makes Barbie dolls, have previously released the Down syndrome Barbie doll. They consulted the National Down Syndrome Society to design the dolls with a shorter frame and a longer torso. You can see a few issues there. And there is this diabetes doll as well, equipped with a glucose monitor and an insulin pump. So, again, interesting. And let's not forget the blind doll that came with a cane and some dark glasses. Well, they've sure got the glasses on there, so there you go. Anyway, but this latest edition, which is the autistic model, has divided opinion, apparently, because the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network described the doll as a milestone in representation. So they're thrilled, apparently, to have helped with the design. But some people have highlighted that autism is usually considered a largely invisible disability. And let me just tell you what makes this doll an autistic Barbie doll, right? Because I think this is a bit much. As you can see, this is equipped with eyes that gaze slightly off-centre, representing an autistic reluctance to make eye contact. The elbows and wrists are more bendy to mimic the repetitive hand flapping that apparently some autistic people use to express themselves. And each Barbie comes with a noise-cancelling headphone set to limit overstimulation. So, is this positive, or is it just really offensive? Joining me now is the founder of Neurodiversity in Business. It's Dan Harris. Dan, thank you very much. Tremendous to see you. What do you make of this autistic Barbie doll?
Thanks for having me on this evening. So my perspective is a mixed one. It's a real step forward in terms of visibility because autism is being treated as normal and part of everyday life, not something to hide, which is a great thing. But as you've alluded to, autism isn't one thing. So one doll can only ever show one slice of a very wide spectrum of traits, needs and identity. So it's a difficult job to get this right. So credit to the manufacturers for trying, but there's more to be done.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I don't know. I mean, for me, it just seems as though that, like, they're kind of needlessly leaning into some tropes here. And I just wonder whether or not, I don't know, just whether or not it's a little bit much. Like the blind, like, with respect, there are some obvious pitfalls behind having a blind Barbie doll and marketing it at blind people, aren't there, really? Like, do we need to be kind of doing all of this stuff, do we think?
I would say we absolutely do, because the reality is that autistic people need to feel part of our community and our society, and having visual representation is one way that they can do that. So, look, for example, you talked about the doll itself. The doll is holding a bit of technology, which is a talker, an augmentative and assistive communication device. And that's huge for that to be represented in society. My son, the Joshy man, who's globally famous for his Let Them Have Their Voices campaign, he carries his talker everywhere. And I'm absolutely thrilled to see this doll carrying it, because we want society to understand that autistic people should and can be everywhere, and actually having these devices is perfectly normal.
To some people in the autistic community who say certain things like the bendy arms to mimic what they say is repetitive hand flapping that some autistic people use to express themselves, they say that they actually find this a bit patronising and offensive.
And look, that's very fair, because everyone's going to take their own representation away from this. I understand that unease too, because a labelled doll can accidentally suggest autism has a recognisable look. And we know the reality is that autism, there is no look to autism. So the challenge with this is it could harden into a public shortcut for what autism is. But I do love the point around the accessories, you know, normalising noise reduction, absolutely. Fidget toys, sensory considerate clothing, these can all reduce the stigma which autistic people unfortunately face in day-to-day life.
OK, well, look, thank you very, very much. It's been tremendous to talk to you. I really appreciate you coming on. That is the founder of Neurodiversity in Business, Dan Harris. Well, we've got lots more coming your way. A couple of really big stories here coming up at 10.
You're out of Islam. You're out. You're supposed to hate. You're supposed to hate, not the non-believer, to hate his belief.
Wow, why are so many Islamist preachers obsessed with coming to the UK? Why hasn't our West Midlands police chief been sacked yet? And Nadeem Zahawi to reform, good idea or bad? All next.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a mixed picture across the UK as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. Some places will see some mist and fog patches, other places having some outbreaks of rain. Although the area of low pressure, which has brought strong winds across northern parts through today, is now clearing, and so those winds are dropping out, we do have a front pushing in across parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, and later into parts of northern England and Wales, where we are going to see some wet weather at times. Staying mostly dry there across central southern England and Wales. Cloud building through the night, some low clouds, some mist quite possible, and actually staying quite mild here. Temperatures not dropping a huge amount. Markedly colder though across northern parts of Scotland where we have clear skies. As a result, a relatively harsh frost in some places, and also some icy stretches to watch out for. Could cause some problems on the roads first thing tomorrow morning. Otherwise, as we go through tomorrow morning, well, it's a bright, cold, icy start across northern Scotland. Across western southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England and Wales, a wet start with that front pushing its way in. And then another front's coming up from the south, so it could be quite a bit of rain across southern counties as you're heading out the door tomorrow morning. And that rain then pushes its way northeastwards across much of central and eastern parts of southern England as well. Some of that rain could be quite heavy as we go through the day. It could cause some localised flooding in a few spots. That front towards the northwest also makes its way south and eastwards across other parts of England and Wales, with something a bit cooler coming in from the northwest. Not as cold as last week, but nonetheless a chillier feel compared to today. Then after a cold and quite widely frosty start to the day tomorrow, it is actually looking largely fine. Lots of bright sunny weather to be had through the bulk of the day, but there's another system coming in from the west, and that's going to bring some cloud and rain as we go later on. Now on Thursday there's a potential for a deep area of low pressure to push in, so that could bring some very strong winds and heavy rain.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus 1 standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dawdney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
It's 10 p.m. I'm Patrick Christys. Tonight,
You're out of Islam. You're out. You're supposed to hate. You're supposed to hate, not the non-believer, to hate his belief.
well, why are so many Islamist preachers obsessed with coming to the UK? There was another one today, and...
Salam alaikum. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the leaders and elders.
A Birmingham mosque helped to appoint that under-fire West Midlands police chief. Why on earth hasn't the Home Secretary sacked him yet? Also...
So it is time for another glorious revolution to get us back to a fully sovereign parliament, and where the government really is the government. For that, my friends, Britain needs reform.
So has Reform made a mistake by welcoming in Nadeem Zahawi? I've got all of tomorrow's newspaper front pages and some breaking news on the front of the Daily Telegraph. This is tomorrow's Daily Telegraph. China is to build a hidden chamber alongside Britain's most sensitive communication cables, easy for me to say, as part of its new London super embassy. Keep it on screen for a sec. Basically, the Daily Telegraph has apparently managed to get hold of unredacted plans for this Chinese super embassy. You know, the one that's caused all the controversy after all the Chinese spying. And yeah, they have got, apparently, a hidden chamber in there. Why are we letting them do this again? On my panel tonight, we have got the Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, journalist Benjamin Butterworth, and Reform member, ex-Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry. And what's gone on here, then?
The man in the women's room, he's a drag queen. You're men!
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Why are mosques now helping to appoint Britain's police chiefs? Next.
Good evening, it's 2 minutes past 10. I'm Katie Bowen in the GB newsroom. Sir Keir Starmer has warned Elon Musk's X tonight that if they cannot control AI tool Grock, the UK government will. The Prime Minister went on to warn that the platform may lose its right to self-regulate. Media watchdog Ofcom today launched an investigation into claims that Grock is being used to generate sexualised images of women and children. Speaking in the House of Commons earlier, Technology Secretary Liz Kendall said no woman or child should live in fear of having their images manipulated by technology. She announced that creating non-consensual intimate images will be made a criminal offence this week. Ofcom says it gave the company a deadline to explain how it's protecting UK users and has now fast-tracked a probe into whether it's breaking the Online Safety Act. Elsewhere today, former Conservative Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi has defected to Reform UK, declaring Britain is drinking at the last chance saloon. Standing alongside Nigel Farage in London, Mr Zahawi said the country really does need Farage as Prime Minister to pull it back from what he called a dark and dangerous chapter. Mr Farage hailed the move as proof that Reform UK is not a one-man band. Labour Party Chair Anna Turley described the former Chancellor as a discredited politician, while the Conservatives claim that the defection comes after Mr Zahawi was rebuffed for a peerage. A source close to the former Tory Chancellor denied claims that he begged to be elevated to the Lords. To the Middle East, where Foreign Secretary Yvette Cooper has spoken to authorities in Iran, saying that the Iranian government must immediately end this violence. It comes as the country is entering a third week of unrest, with a rising death toll and the regime tightening its grip on nationwide protests. Human rights groups say now that nearly 650 people have been killed and more than 10,000 arrested as protests harden into open defiance of the supreme leader. The Foreign Secretary went on to say that the killing and brutal repression of peaceful protesters in Iran is horrific. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt has said tonight that Iran is sending different messages to the US than those in public, adding that President Trump is not afraid to use military force on Iran, but wants diplomacy. A breaking update just coming into us from President Trump. He's just said that effective immediately, any country doing business with Iran will pay a tariff of 25% on any and all business being done with the USA. More on that breaking line shortly. And tens of thousands of people across Sussex and Kent have started the week without running water after Kent County Council declared a major incident. South East Water blames Storm Goretti, freezing weather and a power failure at a pumping station, with 14 postcodes still dry around East Grinstead, Frant and Tunbridge Wells. Schools, libraries and even parts of the local hospital have been forced to shut, with bottled water being handed out to keep essential services running. Local MP Mike Martin says the situation is bizarre, warning the water company must now get a grip. Those are your latest GB News headlines. Now it's back to Patrick.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Good evening. Why are so many Islamist hate preachers determined to come to Britain? Mohammed Bajor has praised Hamas, praised martyrdom, and is accused of spouting anti-Semitic nonsense. Here he is praising the October 7th attacks.
Oh, people of Gaza, don't ever think that Allah is not aware of what's happening. Oh, people of Gaza, you have scarred the enemy, a scar that will never ever be forgotten. Oh, people of Gaza, you have given an Iman boost to the whole Ummah. You have revived the Iman in our hearts. You have reminded us, what does the word Izzah mean?
Here he is saying that Muslims should hate non-believers' beliefs.
And this is my advice to my brothers and sisters who go in interfaith. Interfaith is extremely important, especially for us living in the West. But be very careful. Some people fall into that statement. Oh, you call him Jesus, you call him Yahweh, you call him Buddha, and we call him Allah. We are all the same. You're out of Islam. You're out. You're supposed to hate. You're supposed to hate not the non-believer, to hate his belief. You are supposed to hate his belief. It could be your wife. You're going to hate your wife. You hate, and she knows that you hate that belief. She must bada. It's clear. They must know that you hate that belief, but you respect them and you treat them like Allah told us, لا ينهاكم الله.
He seems to promote an extreme interpretation of Sharia law, including cutting off people's arms and hands when they steal.
I love everything about Islam, but Sheikh, this cutting the arm when somebody steals is barbaric. Barbaric? Out. You're talking about a rule of Allah, barbaric? How dare you? Who made this rule? The most merciful. Ahkam al-Hakimin, the most just, the one who will never ever make anyone feel unjust.
Look, you get the picture. Anyway, he was advertised to be arriving in Britain this weekend and speaking at 3 locations, and one of them was Didsbury Mosque, which is the same mosque that Manchester Arena bomber Salman Abedi and his family attended. After Salman Abedi blew himself up in an arena full of children, members of that mosque said, "We didn't radicalise him. We would have done anything to prevent this attack." They said that they'd been smeared, they'd been demonised. Well, an inquiry found that the mosque didn't do enough to stop extremist literature from being distributed at an open day. I mean, even if they didn't print the leaflets themselves. Well, look, we contacted Didsbury Mosque today, and they've now told us that their venue had been booked by a third party. They didn't know this preacher was due to speak there, or they've cancelled the event. In fact, today, after we here at GB News and the Daily Mail raised the issues, all Mohammed Bajul's events have now been cancelled. So I think that's the second one in a couple of weeks that we have managed to stop, basically. I mean, this is the latest in a long line of Islamist preachers who've come to Britain, or at least tried to. Every single place that has agreed to platform them should be investigated. Every single person who agreed to attend these events should be investigated. But do you remember this guy?
Salam alaikum. Good morning, everyone, and thank you to the leaders and elders that have afforded me this opportunity to speak to you personally. The police are equipped, we're well trained, and we very much will be directly dealing with any of that sort of issue on behalf of everyone that lives in the West Midlands. Shukran.
Shukran. The Home Secretary still hasn't sacked him, but she's about to be told, reportedly, by the Home Affairs Select Committee that they don't think he told the truth about why he banned Israeli fans from coming to Birmingham. So she's said now in the last few minutes, literally in that latest ad break there, apparently she is prepared to say that she's got a vote, she's got no confidence in him if that report comes back and says that they want him gone. But here's the fascinating bit of all this for me. Yesterday, this piece of information came out. The leader of a Birmingham mosque helped to appoint the West Midlands Police Chief Constable, Craig Guilford. Why on earth are mosque leaders getting a say on who becomes a police chief in Britain? The best time to have pushed back on this stuff was years ago. The next best time is right now. We need to end this madness. Let's get the thoughts of my panel. Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, broadcaster and journalist Benjamin Butterworth, and Reform member and former Tory party chairman Sir Jake Berry. Right, 2 stories rolled into one here. Let's start with these radical preachers. So, Carol, they keep trying to come, they keep being advertised as coming, they keep finding venues to come, and they keep finding an audience or people who will be willing to go. What do you think this says about modern Britain?
Well, it says what it says about our politicians, and from what you've demonstrated on there about our police forces, they are under the cosh of Islamists in their area. You know, we've talked about, you know, you've shown a picture of Craig Guilford there. We know he was appointed by a panel that had the boss of a mosque on that panel. You know, community leaders and mosque bosses should have no say in what's going on in this country, and yet we have day after day we have politicians and our police bowing down to Muslims in this country in order to keep their jobs. That can't be happening, and that involves allowing these preachers to come to this country. No preacher should be allowed to come to this country if they're preaching terror or supporting terror. And the imams in this country who live in this country who are doing the same thing should also be chucked out. This can't be allowed to happen because it galvanises people into committing violence.
Yeah, I mean, it just come just a couple of days after the UAE said that they weren't going to send students here because they were afraid that they would be turned into radical Islamists just by virtue of going to university in Britain, which, of course, the likes of Rory Stewart said was a lie and it was fake news, and it turned out to be true, and he's had to apologise. So, well done. Rory Stewart, always 100% accurate all the time, isn't he, that guy? Jake, Julian, why is the leader of a mosque helping to appoint a police chief in Britain?
Well, I think it's the fact that the police forces up and down our country are afraid of their own shadow almost, aren't they? They've gone from being that tough force of, you know, law enforcement people who would go in with no fear nor favour regarding your race, background, religion and enforce the law rigorously against you, to being kowtowed by minority groups in communities. So I guess it was to appease this minority group. It's completely the wrong thing to do. By the way, Patrick, it's not just about him being a leader of a mosque. If someone said the Bishop of Liverpool should be in charge of appointing the chief constable for Liverpool.
We're a Christian country.
Yeah, and there is, but I don't think religious leaders should, you know, your religion shouldn't have anything to do with how the law is enforced. But also, so this is completely wrong. It's wrong as a religious leader, but what makes it particularly worrying, I think, is this follow-on connection with the way this chief constable has then behaved in the job, and I think that shows a police force under the thumb, and people see that.
Well,
We know Guildford bowed down to Islamists over the banning of the Maccabi fans. We know he did. He actually, because he'd been told that these violent Islamists were arming themselves, and he also, they put out it was fake information about what they'd been told by the Dutch police. The Dutch police have since said the advice they gave them was greatly exaggerated by the Midlands force.
But on this, so Benjamin, I'll put this to you. So if the leader of a particular mosque, and you know he's done that, helps to appoint you for a particular job, in this case, obviously a police chief, and then a flashpoint happens, like Jewish Maccabi fans want to come to watch their team play against Aston Villa in Birmingham, and that mosque says, we don't want them here. You're compromised, aren't you?
No, I
shouldn't be, but I think he probably is.
I think that's a mistaken way to look at it. I mean, there are several points. Firstly, the guy that has praised Hamas should not be allowed here because Hamas is proscribed and they've murdered and abducted British citizens. So that one's straightforward. The second question of whether he made a mistake with the dealing of Maccabi Tel Aviv seems pretty obvious he did that wrong and it was an insult to the Jewish people. But does that mean that having a community leader that represents a very significant part of the West Midlands should be excluded is wrong?
It's not a significant part. No, because you can't say that. The Muslim population accounts for 17% in the West Midlands.
Well, that's a significant part.
No,
that's a fifth of all the people in West Midlands.
And white people are 64%, so it's not significant.
Well, I would suggest that 1/5 is significant. But what I would say is that there were 53 people on this panel, and they decided on this person unanimously, as I understand it. So it wasn't as though it was this individual imam or mosque leader that got him the job. Now, we have a long history in this country of policing by consent. It works well. It's the reason why we don't have scenes like in France and America of shooting down protesters, thank goodness. And you would lose that at our peril. And I would also just point out, to finish, that you would expect synagogue leaders, rabbis, to be consulted, given the level of threat to Jewish people, and so it makes sense to include various stakeholders.
Yeah, but look, we've got, you know, it's undeniable we've got two-tier police in this country. You just have to look at the story over the weekend where a pro-Palestinian mob protested outside a kosher restaurant in Notting Hill. And the police stood by and did nothing as they attempted forcibly, through protests, to stop diners going in, to shut that restaurant for the night. Can you imagine what the police would do if a group of white people turned up outside, say, a Bangladeshi restaurant that was owned by Bangladeshi Muslims and said, we don't want Bangladeshis in our community? This you know, that one incident over the weekend and things like we've seen about the appointment of chief constables, it is proof positive that we have two-tier police in this country. We have surrendered our streets, in many cases, to the Islamists, and police chief constables have been part of that problem.
Patrick pointed out that Shabana Mahmood is thinking of saying that she has no confidence in Craig Guilford.
About time.
Shabana Mahmood knew that he was going to ban Maccabi fans 8 days before it was announced. She has also known that Guilford exaggerated the evidence he'd been given by Dutch police, and she has done nothing about that. Why not?
Well, it's also her area, this.
Yes.
And she may very well lose her seat. See, this is the thing. Yet again, if you look at those stories there about the leader of a mosque being on a panel that helped to decide the chief constable, mosques being consulted about whether or not they wanted to ban the fans, Shabana Mahmood, in a heavily Muslim seat, at risk of losing her seat, is now being asked to take a strong stand on an issue involving the Muslim community. There's a lot of compromising issues here.
Sectarianisation of British politics.
Add to that, the SAG group in City Council, which banned the fans, actually had 2 Muslim councillors on that panel.
Just to bring it back to the first hour, that guy is this kind of like nutty hate preacher, basically, who was due to come. This is the latest in a long line of these. We had another one last week that we managed to stop as well by actually alerting the Home Office to it. Yeah, if it wasn't for people online seeing these posters or seeing these things, we'd be none the wiser. And then before you know it, someone like him turns up on a speaking tour of the UK. But the concern for me, Benjamin, is how many people seem to want to go and see these people. And they can't keep pleading ignorance. The reason why you put... If someone said to you, do you want to come to this event? Who's speaking? Never heard of him. Well, then you wouldn't go, would you? Be ridiculous. So they obviously know who he is. They obviously know what views he's got. They obviously like him, which is why they would go and see him. So that indicates that there's a big undercurrent of really quite damaging Islamist views in this country.
Well, first of all, I think it's unfair on Shabana Mahmood. She voted to prescribe Palestine action. She's introducing much tougher immigration rules, and we will see in a few days if she decides to strip this man of his job, and then, you know, you should acknowledge that if he does.
What he did since November.
But there is a problem in this country with Islamic extremism in mosques that has been ignored, and I think we do that at our peril, because so many cases, you know, if you're a gay kid growing up in one of those communities, what chance do you have? We saw it a couple of years ago in Birmingham when there were horrific protests, and we saw the same in Batley in Yorkshire, against gay people being acknowledged in these schools, in secondary schools, of self-appointed community leaders. There is a problem, but that doesn't mean that you don't try and engage the reasonable people in that community, because if you exclude them, then you have a much bigger breakdown in relations.
The police chiefs, I mean, I'm fascinated to know. The question for me, following on from this, is how many police forces have police chiefs that have been voted on by the leader of the local mosque?
I would think it's all of them. But, you know, if you think about the great institutions in this country, you know, the police have fallen so far, so quickly in terms of the public opinion. And the wisdom of crowds in the British public, they are just saying, look, there's something not right about police in this country. It doesn't feel fair. It feels like it's been captured by one community in favour of that community. We can't really disagree with the British people, because if you look at the facts, we may not have absolute evidence and point at every single individual case, but if you speak to the British public, you know, they feel that policing has fallen and it's been captured, and I personally think they're right.
Yeah, it's becoming increasingly hard to deny, because more and more of this stuff is coming out. And look, for me, the reason why this is so important is it's just a personal view of mine. The great battle of our time is how we deal with extreme Islam in the West, not just in Britain, but in the West. But in Britain, I think we have an especially bad problem with it. It's also how we deal with things like the Pakistani rape gang scandal and stuff like that. And if we are in any way compromised as a country, like police chiefs have been appointed by imams, or, you know, all of this stuff, or they're living in fear, or you've got, you know, kind of radical preachers down at the local mosque all the time, and you're not banning them. Like, I just think we're not going to be able to handle it. It's terrible news for Britain if that's the case. But anyway, we did approach Mohammed Barjour for comment. He did not respond. We did go to Disbury Mosque, and they said the trust trustees did not approve this event being held at Disbury Mosque, and the booking of our hall by a third-party organiser has now been cancelled. All official speakers invited to Disbury Mosque undergo a rigorous vetting process to ensure full alignment with our policies and compliance with UK law. The trustees are investigating how the mosque name appeared on the advertisement and social media. We reject all forms of racism and hate. So we went to the Home Office. Now, they've said there is no place in the UK for foreign nationals who spread hate or push extremist ideas. Anyone intent on stirring hatred or dividing communities will not be allowed to enter into the UK. Oh, good, we've got more. In a previous statement, West Midlands Police said a huge amount of planning went into the operation. This is obviously in relation to the Maccabi Tel Aviv thing, with the aim of preventing crime and disorder and disruption to the game and keeping everyone safe. The operation achieved its aims of keeping everyone in attendance safe, and this is down to the hard work of all the officers and staff from West Midlands Police and other forces around the country. Did I potentially slander anyone else? No? Good, OK. It's time now for the Great Bitches giveaway, and it's your chance to win an incredible £85,000. Here's how.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. What would you spend all of that cash on? 2026 could be the year you spend more time spending with an incredible £85,000 in your bank. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 9th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up, we'll have all of tomorrow's newspapers and some breaking news on the front page of the Daily Telegraph. Do you remember that Chinese super embassy that we were told would be absolutely fine, everything's going to be OK, no need to stop it yet? So now the hidden chamber, which was redacted in the plans, has emerged, and they're putting a hidden chamber right alongside Britain's most sensitive communication cables as part of that new super embassy in London. What could go wrong? But before that, former Tory Chancellor Nadhim Zahawi has defected to Reform. Is this good or a bit weird and quite bad? That's next.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. Weekdays from midday.
The University of Bristol has been threatened with legal action by a leading academic who led a recent government review into sex and gender data collection.
Well, Professor Alice Sullivan claims her freedom of speech was restricted after a talk she gave was disrupted by a trans rights protest.
Protesters actually scaled the walls of the building. We were in a first-floor lecture theatre, and they climbed the walls in order to bang on the windows and sort of howl through the windows. It felt incredibly surreal in there. It was like some kind of zombie apocalypse.
What was it, Alice, that these students objected to? So you have recently led this government review, and all you've said, as far as I can see, very rightly, is that police should be recording and the NHS should be recording people's biological sex rather than their gender identity. And you have very good reason for saying that, which is that cancer referrals have been missed and crimes have been misrecorded because of this idea of gender identity. Is that really what these students objected to, or have you said anything else that they might object to?
No, and it is extraordinary. I have literally argued that we should collect data on sex and we should also collect data on transgender identities as well. It's not a zero-sum game. We need accurate data on all groups in order to serve the needs and the human rights of all groups. It's all I've ever said. And I can only imagine that had these protesters actually come in and listened to my talk, they might have been surprised, because I really don't know what they thought I was saying. Obviously, from the perspective of someone outside the room banging on the window, they have no idea what I'm saying.
Absolutely extraordinary. I mean, very good. This is why people need to come in and listen.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Patrick Christys tonight. So, Reform UK has secured its most high-profile and experienced defection yet, apparently. Former Tory Chancellor and Vaccines Minister Nadeem Zahawi, well, he's jumped ship, hasn't he? He's said this about...
So it is time for another glorious revolution to get us back to a fully sovereign parliament, and where the government really is the government. For that, my friends, Britain needs reform.
OK, so party leader Nigel Farage hailed Zahawi as a successful businessman who knows how to get stuff done. Now, he becomes the 20th ex-Conservative MP to defect to reform since March 2024. But Zahawi's previous tweets have also come under scrutiny, especially this one from 2015, which has now been deleted. In it, he called out Nigel Farage for, quote, racist and offensive comments. He said, "I would be frightened to live in a country run by you." His previous stance on immigration has also resurfaced. In 2013, he supported calls for an amnesty for all illegal migrants. Earlier on today, I also saw a clip of him in which he appeared to suggest that it's good that we have high levels of immigration from places like Somalia, because they then send that money back to Somalia, and that means that we don't have to give it away in foreign aid. So, not sure the view, especially in light of recent events in America, means that people agree with that. But anyway, so is this a coup for Reform UK, or is it just a case of opportunism? Is it an own goal? Joining us now is Reform member, former Conservative Party chairman, Sir Jay Berry. OK, so people don't like this.
So, first of all, let me take you up on your description of Nadeem Zahawi. I'm not sure he is the most senior Conservative.
I thought you were going to say that.
Might be me.
Yes,
you never know. We
both
were former chairman of the Conservative Party.
Absolutely. But I think the general consensus online about this, anyway, is that this is a bad move.
Well, look, let me tackle head-on his tweet. So, look, when I joined Reform UK, I didn't have to delete any of my tweets because I've been a long-term friend and supporter of Nigel Farage. But I do accept in Nadeem's case, when you are doing jobs like being chairman of the Conservative Party, when you're vaccinating, whatever it is, that for politics, the politics of the day, there's an argument between the government and Nigel Farage, you will put out negative tweets. That is the rough and tumble of politics. I personally think...
racist.
Well, I think it's a bit unfortunate. If it had been me, I probably would have gone through and pruned them all before I'd made the defection. But when I came over to Reform, I didn't have to do that because I've always been quite a big supporter of Nigel Farage and actually lots of what Reform stand for. So look, he's undoubtedly a great person to come into Reform and give some experience. And Patrick, look, we're just going to have to face up. Reform is the biggest political party in the United Kingdom. Actually, on some measures, it's the biggest political party in Europe. And as it gets bigger, it's going to bring people in from across the political
spectrum. But why
spectrum.
do they keep going then for, you know, in the case of Nadeem Zahawi, washed-up Tories?
Well, look, I had the privilege of meeting a load of the Welsh candidates this weekend and talking to them. And I can tell you that when you're looking, and Nigel was clear about this, those really important Welsh elections and the Scottish elections, most important elections, I think, between now and the general election, meeting those candidates en masse, having a bit of chat with them, I think these people coming forward to stand reform, the majority of them had never been any political party, they were business people, is the biggest single injection of political talent into places like the Senate and the Scottish Parliament in the history of those institutions. We have brilliant, yes, some of them are ex-Conservative, like myself, like Nadine, but we have brilliant people from the Labour Party, from the Conservative Party, from other political parties, but mostly from business. As I said, this is the biggest political movement in Europe, and it's going to have lots of different people.
They don't need to allow themselves to be used by people. And the allegation against Nadeem Zahawi is that he wanted a peerage from the Conservatives, and they said, we're never going to give you one.
Well,
so he's jumped ship to reform. So why, they don't need to be used by people.
I personally wouldn't believe any of those sour grapes, nasty briefing from the Conservative Party. There was quite a lot about it. For me, Kemi Badenoch branded me as the leader of a banana republic, which I just thought was a very unusual language. I don't actually... I must ask her what it means. I don't know what it means. This is just bad feeling in the Conservative Party. Look, ultimately, we will find out in May when this brilliant group of reform candidates come forward that the Conservative Party will probably no longer be a national party. It may have no representation in Scotland and Wales after those elections. They are scared, they're backed into a corner, and when political parties get to that position, they get nasty, and they're being nasty about Nadine.
What happens if Matt Hancock says he wants to join?
Well, look...
Do you like Matt Hancock?
So, first of all...
Boris?
First of all, Nigel was really clear today, wasn't he? He said there are lots of Conservatives who've approached him, and he said no. I personally don't know whether he's had a conversation with Matt Hancock, but I hope he would say no if he came along. Boris Johnson, you know, if you look at what Nigel said, opposing the Boris wave, that ridiculous million people we had arrive here, I couldn't see a home for him in reform. Nigel is very careful who he lets in. He vets them, he talks to them. I think Nadine brings a lot to the table. But I just think when you've got the biggest political party in Europe, you have to be prepared for it to be quite, you know, quite a broad political spectrum.
OK, just very finally on this then, Nadeem Zahawi, you're hoping, presumably, has changed his views that we should have an amnesty for all illegal immigrants, because that's the least reform thing.
Yeah, I know. That is not a view that will sit well in reform.
So do you think he's lying about it?
It's not a view I've... Look, personally, it's not a view I've ever subscribed to or would subscribe to. I go back to that point. Look, people say... maybe this is why Keir Starmer wants to ban it. People say, you know, in the political rough and tumble, they say things that they are told to say on Twitter. Personally, I've never done it. That's why it was easy for me to go to reform. I'm really pleased to see Nadine come over. I just wish she'd done it a bit earlier, like me,
well, this is the thing.
To get behind the cause when it really needed.
There are a lot of people who actually find some of this stuff now quite offensive. Not from you, but from people like Nadeem Zahawi, because the Conservatives were in power for 14 years and had the chance to make sure that we didn't end up in this absolute ash show that we've got at the moment. And if they really did believe all along that they should have been harder on immigration, then why didn't they do it? You know, and it's all well and good now saying, oh, I was whipped, I couldn't do it, and now, you know, I'll join reform. I think a lot of people find that offensive, because it's not them who suffered, has it? He's found his way back into politics, Jay. He's found his way into a job. He'll probably find his way into the House of Lords. Meanwhile, we've got people with hotels full of illegal immigrants living next to them.
Anyone who joins reform, you should judge them by what they did before in reform. I always opposed uncontrolled migration. I actually massively opposed large elements of net zero. I opposed lots. In fact, I opposed nearly everything Rishi Sunak did. I know Nadine did as well, in all fairness. You've got to judge people on their record, not by the rhetoric that sits around them, I think.
Thank you very much, Sir Joe Berry there. Right, OK, coming up, we've got some breaking news in the front of the Daily Telegraph. Right, well, shock horror. In fact, it's not shock, but it is horror. China is going to build a hidden chamber alongside Britain's most sensitive communication cables as part of a new London super embassy. Why are we letting them do it? It's next.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello, here's your latest holiday sun forecast brought to you by the Met Office. On Tuesday, we'll see some unsettled weather across the western Med with some snow across the hills further east. So confirmation then of some outbreaks of rain on Tuesday across the Canaries, Madeira, parts of western Spain and Portugal. Mostly fine, as I say, across the central part of the Med there, certainly for Italy, 1 or 2 showers and some bright spells too, but a risk of snow certainly across the hills of Turkey. As for the coming few days, well, things generally quieten down, but we'll see further rain at times across western parts.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a mixed picture across the UK as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. Some places will see some mist and fog patches, other places having some outbreaks of rain. Although the area of low pressure, which has brought strong winds across northern parts through today, is now clearing, and so those winds are dropping out, we do have a front pushing in across parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, and later into parts of northern England and Wales, where we are going to see some wet weather at times. Staying mostly dry there across central southern England and Wales. Cloud building through the night, some low clouds, some mist quite possible, and actually staying quite mild here. Temperatures not dropping a huge amount. Markedly colder though across northern parts of Scotland where we have clear skies. As a result, a relatively harsh frost in some places, and also some icy stretches to watch out for. Could cause some problems on the roads first thing tomorrow morning. Otherwise, as we go through tomorrow morning, well, it's a bright, cold, icy start across northern Scotland, across western southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England and Wales. A wet start with that front pushing its way in, and then another front's coming up from the south, so it could be quite a bit of rain across southern counties as you're heading out the door tomorrow morning, and that rain then pushes its way northeastwards across much of central and eastern parts of southern England as well. Some of that rain could be quite heavy as we go through the day. It could cause some localised flooding in a few spots. That front towards the northwest also makes its way south and eastwards across other parts of England and Wales, with something a bit cooler coming in from the northwest. Not as cold as last week, but nonetheless a chillier feel compared to today. Then after a cold and quite widely frosty start to the day tomorrow, it is actually looking largely fine. Lots of bright sunny weather to be had through the bulk of the day, but there's another system coming in from the west, and that's going to bring some cloud and rain as we go later on. Now on Thursday there's a potential for a deep area of low pressure to push in, so that could bring some very strong winds and heavy rain.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
OK, welcome back to Patrick Christys Tonight. Let's give you the first look at tomorrow's newspaper front pages. The iPaper, UK under-16s could be banned from social media within months. The Daily Express, tell the truth on the fantasy cost of net zero push. Ed Miliband's net zero project could land the taxpayer with a huge bill of £9 trillion, according to a new report. That's good, isn't it? The Guardian, ADHD care costs soar as NHS turns to the private sector. Always gets my viewers and listeners going, this, really, when you talk about this. Are too many people being diagnosed with ADHD? Are too many people deliberately being diagnosed with ADHD? Or actually, is it a growing problem? The Metro, crash, gangs walloped. Police smash open a suspect's door during a blitz on drug gangs, including a vicious Turkish mafia group. This is, I believe, partly anyway, some of the lines that came out today said the homicide rate in London is down. Yeah, fine. But we also have people like drug-dealing mafia Turks, which the Metro has been on a raid for. So, you know, swings and roundabouts, really.
Increasing violent sexual crimes
exactly.
as well.
Violent sexual crimes, your phone, shoplifting, all of that stuff. You know, it's good news that murders are down, but the thing with that is as well, by the way, while we're on this, is that they're very, very vulnerable to celebrating all of this stuff now, because you are one big attack, like another London Bridge or something like that, and before you know it, actually, those homicide numbers are right back up again, aren't they? So, anyway, the Daily Telegraph, this is what we're going to focus on now. China's embassy's secret threat to the city. Previously redacted plans reveal a hidden chamber alongside critical infrastructure. Starmer is expected to approve Beijing's plans before meeting Xi later this month. Let's focus on that. Jake, I'll start with you on this. So it's out now. This was a rumour for quite a long time. People thought there was going to be a secret chamber. People thought it could even be a torture chamber. It turns out now that there is a secret chamber, and it's right next to all of the fibre optic cables that lead directly to the city. Why are we letting the Chinese do this?
Because we have a weak Prime Minister who won't stand up for our country. That's the truth of it. They're building a secret chamber with heat extraction equipment, which everything points to supercomputers and espionage on an industrial scale. And because our Prime Minister and our Chancellor have effectively crashed our economy to such an extent that we are now desperate for investment from China, they are rolling over like a puppy and saying, tickle my tummy, we'll give you whatever you want. It is a sad indictment of the weakness of our Prime Minister and our country.
So what do we know about... Sorry, you just mentioned there that it's got heat extractors and things, this thing. Do we know anything else about this?
Well, I mean, there's quite a lot of detail in the Telegraph. I was looking at that, but that's something that should really concern us, because if it was, I don't know, a document storage room, which we might be more relaxed about, it wouldn't rely on this sort of equipment that the Telegraph has detailed. So in all fairness, what a brilliant scoop.
It's fantastic. No, really well done. Yeah, Carol, I mean, just when you think it can get any worse, I mean, the Prime Minister... The Chinese have been spying on us for years, but also really aggressively, and a lot of that did start very much under the Conservative. It probably started
from
way
a distance.
Yeah, well, you say that, but then they also put out to tender, didn't they? I think under Boris Johnson, was it? The computers in Downing Street, which the Chinese company had.
These cables they're going to lay for this super chamber, these fibre optic cables, are right next to the cables that transmit financial data to the City of London, for God's sake. I mean, what is wrong with Starmer? Does he not get the security implications of this, or is he just crawling up the backside of the Chinese? He's going to approve this, and this is because he's going to China next month. So he's going to put our country in danger just so he can face up the Chinese president and all the Chinese politicians and say he's helping them out. It's pathetic. He's putting us all in danger here. And it's insidious that they tried to hide this from us, because the plans for the super chamber were redacted. We were not, and we only know now about them because the Telegraph has got a leaked report about it. The government hasn't told us about it. They've tried to hide it from us. It's astonishing.
Yeah, Benjamin, should Starmer just say, look, no, you can't have this whopping great big super embassy, and you certainly can't have this ridiculous secret chamber that is obviously going to be used to spy on us?
Yeah, it does seem that any embassy that has this space in it that seems incredibly suspicious is not going to be in our own national security interests. I mean, I learned recently of somebody who was an advisor to George Osborne as Chancellor, and he said that when Xi Jinping came to the UK on a state visit, which David Cameron and George Osborne invited him over for, they were given tea sets, teapots and what they called...
Teacups.
Tea sets, yeah.
That's it.
That's a hard word.
Teacups. And they were given these as gifts from the Chinese. And when they went to scan these teacups, they had put mechanisms in the bottom of them, chips, that's the word, to spy. Now,
to sort of see whether you were having sugar in your tea.
If they were, or more accurately, to record what you're doing, which is, I don't know whether you see the story of how L'Oreal nearly collapsed, but it was from a very similar tactic of putting chips in teacups and then listening to people as they're drinking them. And so if the Chinese government is willing to put spyware in teacups and teapots that they give as a gift on an official state visit to the UK, then what makes you think that they won't do it in their own space in an embassy? I think it's very likely that this is suspicious.
Isn't this actually about how you manage risk? Because we have to accept, you know, whether China's an enemy or not is something the government certainly wasn't prepared to confirm when it came to the China spying trial, which collapsed. But you have to admit that any state, probably including the American embassy, the German embassy, will attempt to look at the British state and what it's doing. But the government should be in the market of mitigating this risk as much as possible, trying to reduce the chances of them finding out our secrets. And allowing them to build a super embassy is one thing. Allowing them to build a super embassy with a secret chamber that is specifically, apparently designed is not something we should be agreeing to.
I mean, look, the government suffered a little bit of a blow over the whole Chagos fiasco earlier today in the House of Lords, but, you know, yet again, how much is Keir Starmer prepared to give away or to sell Britain down the river for the sake of maybe short-term gain when it comes to China? You know, Keir Starmer will be acutely aware that he's not going to be around forever as the leader of this country, but the damage that he leaves in his wake certainly could be. And once we allow the Chinese to start spying on the City of London, even more than they unquestionably already are, it would be ridiculous, won't it? I find it utterly astonishing that we're doing this. But we've got some more newspapers coming your way. Breaking news on the front page of The Times tomorrow is a Jewish MP was blocked from visiting a school by pro-Palestine teachers. Again, a tale of woe from modern Britain. That's next.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
So it comes down to money, doesn't it? Always follow the money, follow the money. And, you know, big tech is a big business. It is a very, very powerful industry. And it's pulled a blinder because it has convinced government and schools, teaching unions, you know, the individual local authorities that are responsible for procurement. It has convinced everyone that tech is either not harmful in the case perhaps of social media and smartphones or actually beneficial. And it's a lie. I mean, it's a complete lie. The evidence is there. It is harmful.
There are plenty of examples in society where there are things that we know that are harmful to children or that they may come with risks and benefits associated with them. Let's say contact sports, for example. Let's say giving them junk food. But we still give parents the right to make that decision because we believe in the rights of parental responsibility over state intervention in those areas. What makes those areas different to the risks and benefits associated with digital use for kids?
Yeah, I mean, look, absolutely. And I, as you know, as Rennie knows, I'm about as libertarian as one gets, certainly for adults. I do think when you know, the intersection of individual choice and freedom with child welfare and child safety is rather different. And I think there are many examples of areas where a problem is too big for individual parents to solve. I mean, you've mentioned contact sports, and I think that's a really good example because, of course, there we all have the choice as parents whether our children should or shouldn't engage in contact sports. But phones are rather different. I mean, certainly smartphones, and I think that, you know, you do have a distinction with phones versus edtech. It is literally mandated by schools, and there is no legal right for parents to opt out. So there is no choice.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to stop. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome along. Let's get you the final round of tomorrow's newspaper front pages. So we start with the Daily Mail. Fury over Labour payout to Hermer's Guantanamo client. So a terror suspect who was represented by Sir Keir Starmer's Lord Chief, Lord Hermer, has been handed a substantial payout from the UK, sparking outrage last night. He's called Abu Zubaydah, and he was detained by the US authorities. He was caught in the wake of 9/11. I believe he was held at Guantanamo Bay. He launched a legal fight claiming that Britain was complicit in his torture. We've paid him out. Lord Hermer represented him. Yeah. A classic of the genre. Let's go to the Times. Jewish MP's school visit scuppered by pro-Palestine teachers. A visit by a Jewish MP to a school in his constituency was cancelled after a campaign by pro-Palestine teachers and threats from parents to keep their children at home. The Sun, bin diesel. Fuel pumps are going to start vanishing in 4 years. So Diesel will start disappearing from petrol station voice. The final nail in the coffin, obviously, for diesel drivers. And The Independent, Starmer gives Musk ultimatum to end shameful AI images. Just quickly, what do you think about this story about a Jewish MP not being able to go and visit a school in his constituency because of pro-Palestine teachers on the front of the Times? Anyone want to have a go at that?
Well, I mean, it's pretty shocking. You know, Damon Egan, I know him. He's a very decent person. His partner is Israeli as well, his husband, and so he's faced constant abuse for this. He stands up for his constituents, he stands up for the right of Israel to exist. And frankly, shouldn't schools be welcoming a debate even if most of the pupils there disagree?
Yeah, I don't think this was even going to be a debate on Gaza or anything, was it? It was literally just, you know, the teachers threatened to wear keffiyehs to the school on the day.
That's nonsense. I mean, what
pictures are these?
This is an affront to democracy, actually. What I think is really interesting about it is the campaign was driven to some extent by members of the National Education Union, militant members of the National Education Union, and Steve Reed, the Community Secretary, who would have some responsibility for this, has said this is an outrage and school leaders will be held to account. Watch this space. Let's see if that Labour Secretary of State, who was responsible for community relations, takes on this militant union. I think you could grow quite old waiting for it.
It comes after that opinion poll that came out over the weekend about the political leanings of teachers. The Greens are way ahead. You've got your party, like 5%, or I think even a bit more of teachers support your party. You've got Labour, etc. Well, I'm sorry, but, you know...
These are the people who are meant to be educating our children. Doesn't give you much hope for the future, does it?
And also, sorry to take your time, but it is obviously racism. I mean, if this were a Nigerian heritage politician or something similar, and you said you can't come in because we don't like what Nigeria does in some way, well, no one would think that was okay.
But it's an acceptable form of racism in the eyes of some people on the left, and so they're allowed to get away with it. Carol, the Daily Express, and to an extent the Sun as well, tell the truth on the fantasy cost of net zero, £9 billion apparently.
And they're quite right to us, because a new report has claimed it's going to cost us £9 trillion.
Trillion, sorry.
You know, this is all down to Miliband, who actually, you know, he said he was going to lower all our energy bills by £300 a year. They've actually gone up. But, you know, this is largely down to him not allowing us to exploit our own resources in the North Sea. We have some of the highest energy prices in Europe.
In the world.
Fine. In the world.
Well, just on that, Joe, did you, our interest, did you ever vote against a piece of net zero legislation when you were in the Tories? I don't think you did.
I think, well, I don't recall, but I think what I would say about it...
Recollections may vary.
No, I genuinely don't know. I suspect I probably didn't, because it was a whipped piece of party business. But when Boris held COP26, I'm on the record of being exceptionally critical, not just of net zero, but the sort of doubling down Boris did of net zero, particularly through written parliamentary questions that people can look at. We have to stop. You know, maybe it was an idea of its time that everyone thought was a good idea at the time. The Labour Party voted.
Do you regret voting for the net zero?
Absolutely, it is absolute insanity. You cannot have a successful economy and, as Carol correctly points out, the most expensive energy prices in the world. Those things just do not work.
This report said it threatens the biggest recession that this country has ever known, this rush to net zero. How can we allow that to happen? And, you know, the Sun front page has a story saying that we're going to get rid of diesel in the next 4 years. That can't happen. They're saying it's going to be for the push for electric cars. Electric cars are dying on their backside. No one wants them anymore.
Exactly.
They can't force people to... They're trying to sell them at half price now, and they still can't get rid of them.
You know, ironically, the cheapest electric vehicles are all made in China. You can get them for £6,000, £7,000, £8,000, and they're better than here.
Do you get your own?
But we don't allow those Chinese cars to flood the market. So you could if you let Chinese vehicles.
You can't get rid of diesel at a time when
do you get your own secret underground garage for it?
You can park it in an underground garage, somewhere over London's cables. Anyway, right, good stuff. Look, in case you couldn't tell, there's a huge amount of news around this evening as well with these front pages. Thank you to our wonderful panel. We've got another big hour coming your way. We're going to pick apart all these front pages and some of what's inside the book as well. Lots flying around. All of that coming your way next.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather update from the Met Office. Quite a mixed picture across the UK as we go through tonight and into tomorrow. Some places will see some mist and fog patches, other places having some outbreaks of rain. Although the area of low pressure, which has brought strong winds across northern parts through today, is now clearing, and so those winds are dropping out, we do have a front pushing in across parts of Northern Ireland, southern Scotland, and later into parts of northern England and Wales, where we are going to see some wet weather at times. Staying mostly dry though across central southern England and Wales. Cloud building through the night, some low clouds, some mist quite possible, and actually staying quite mild here. Temperatures not dropping a huge amount. Markedly colder though across northern parts of Scotland where we have clear skies. As a result, a relatively harsh frost in some places, and also some icy stretches to watch out for. Could cause some problems on the roads first thing tomorrow morning. Otherwise, as we go through tomorrow morning, well, it's a bright, cold, icy start across northern Scotland, across western southern Scotland, Northern Ireland, parts of northern England and Wales. A wet start with that front pushing its way in, and then another front's coming up from the south, so it could be quite a bit of rain across southern counties as you're heading out the door tomorrow morning, and that rain then pushes its way northeastwards across much of central and eastern parts of southern England as well. Some of that rain could be quite heavy as we go through the day. It could cause some localised flooding in a few spots. That front towards the northwest also makes its way south and eastwards across other parts of England and Wales, with something a bit cooler coming in from the northwest. Not as cold as last week, but nonetheless a chillier feel compared to today. Then after a cold and quite widely frosty start to the day tomorrow, it is actually looking largely fine. Lots of bright sunny weather to be had through the bulk of the day, but there's another system coming in from the west, and that's going to bring some cloud and rain as we go later on. Now on Thursday there's a potential for a deep area of low pressure to push in, so that could bring some very strong winds and heavy rain.
Warm and cosy, with a chance of zero visibility. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Breaking news right now, it's a GB News exclusive. The Labour government is going to launch a new TikTok channel to counter illegal immigration. How do you see that one going? We're going to analyse what they're doing there. You won't get that on any other news channel this evening. The other big story, of course, Chinese embassy has got a secret chamber underneath it. The plans were redacted. They didn't want you to know about it. Well, we're telling you about it. It's happening. Why is Keir Starmer allowing it to happen? And Ed Miliband's net zero plans could cost us £9 trillion and plunge us into the biggest recession ever.
There's just 3 weeks left to grab your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make 2026 the year of yes. That's yes to holidays, yes to treats, yes to making all of those dreams come true this year. Just make sure you don't miss out. For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.